Welcome to Transform Today and Do It Again Tomorrow, the podcast devoted to getting you unstuck, taking your life off of autopilot, and having more fun by being your authentic self. This is episode number 3, Show Up as Yourself. Align your life with your values. My name is Rebecca Ryan, and as a certified life coach and professional writer, I help people from any walk of life transform their lives to find their purpose, potential, and fulfillment by digging deep to find the answers that were there the whole time. This is an 8-part series you're listening to. I've created it to help you experience what life coaching is, and so you can hear some things I talk about with clients to help them get unstuck in their lives. So you can get a sense of what life coaching is and the tools and techniques that I would use with you if you were a client. Each week in this series, I'm going to give you one step in the process, and I give you an assignment to work on for that full week. So I hope you've been tuning in to the first 2 episodes. By the end of the 8 weeks, if you stick with me, you're going to have tools and new ways of looking at your life. It's going to help you start and really continue on the process of looking objectively at your life, and then changing in ways that make you feel more content and fulfilled. That really is the goal here. And life coaching, it's kind of new. It's not really new, but it's just becoming a bit more mainstream. It's not a one and done sort of thing. It's not like, oh, I went to a life coaching session, I'm cured. It's not. It's like if you think of a sports coach, you are constantly coached to get better at your game and to learn new skills and to check in again and to learn something new from your coach over and over again. Not a one and done sort of thing. Same with life coaching. Except we're not doing sports, we're doing emotions and tactics and goals and psychology. It's a recurring conversation. It's really deep, and it pushes you to look at your life and really pinpoint things that feel off to you. We've all had that feeling of like, something just doesn't feel right. Something about my life is not lighting me up, and I don't know where to start. That's what a life coach does. It helps you. We help you understand where to start and how to move forward. It's about peeling back the layers and kind of uncovering answers that you already know those answers are in there, but those answers just get buried for a variety of reasons. We do this whole adulting thing. We get busy, we get on autopilot, and we forget who we are and what's important to us. So in week 1, we talked about self-awareness and thinking about who you are. We talked about who's driving the bus, right? Who am I? What do I want? Week 2, last week, we talked about what's fueling the bus, referring to your values in life. And values are the things we prioritize as things that are really important or just of value. What do I find valuable in this life? And those things that you have high priority on, those are the things that you're going to hopefully focus more of your time, energy, and money on. Those are the things that they light you up. They kind of illuminate your soul, if you don't want to get too woo-woo. But that is it. It's like your values are who you are and what's important to you. So that's going to dictate your actions. So we discussed several questions that can help you figure out what your values are. So I hope you really did that work last week. Your homework was to kind of keep your eyes and ears open to patterns in your life, so you can see your values more clearly. It takes time and attention to really get a sense of what you value in your life. And like I said last week, sure, you might know, I love my family, I need love. Those are pretty easy values to pinpoint, but you have to pay attention a bit more closely to find the nuanced list. Like I said, we have an A list and a B list. The A list are the values that they're just deal breakers. You cannot live without. Maybe it's nature, it's freedom, things like that. Your B list might be like, I really like my quiet time here and there. So having this list of values, it takes time because you're going to observe your life and really take note of things that you high regard, that you really need to feel like you can be yourself. So we talked about values, but today we're going to dig into an idea. It's been around for a long time. It's not my idea. I really think it was Socrates who first said it. I have no idea, but it's very, very old. This idea is how important it is to live a life that's aligned with your values. It's so important. So can someone who is observing your life tell what's important to you just by your actions? That's the question we're trying to answer this week. And what would that look like at your job, your relationships, your leisure time, or your health and wellness? We all have different categories in our lives, right? So we might have the same values we carry with us, but how we act upon those values will show up differently in a relationship than it will at work, possibly. But that's what this is all about, taking the time to look at different categories in your life, comparing your actions to your list of values, and seeing if they're in conflict with each other. Are they kind of working together in harmony? But the truth is, when your work, your habits, your hobbies, your relationships all bring your values to life, it really, truly, I promise you, can improve your confidence, your focus, and your overall contentment. It's like having a roadmap, like, okay, I know where I'm going. I'm not confused now. It truly is so helpful. And why is this? It's simple. You are operating from a place where you are yourself. You're not pretending to be anyone else. Man, that's powerful, isn't it? When we can be ourselves and not expend any energy on just faking it. We can truly be ourselves and show up and let those values shine through. So you're going to be more confident. You're going to be more focused and just overall happy. It doesn't mean your life changes. It means you change from within. You can still be working at a job you don't love, but suddenly you just carry the contentment with you. It sounds out there, doesn't it? It sounds like, what? Seriously? Carry contentment with me? Yes, truly. If you work on it, you can find ways to infuse your life with more joy. So we talked about how sometimes people can feel like they just feel stuck in life. Like, I just feel stuck. I don't know what to do next. I just feel off. I'm not as content as I wish I could be. This happens a lot when life starts to feel like it's on autopilot, right? We've all been there. Things just tend to go where they're going to go. We're just along for the ride. So even when life looks good on paper, it doesn't feel right because it's not lighting up our values. So from the outside looking in, like, man, he's really got his stuff together. But if it's not what you want and you're just going through the motions, it's not lighting up your values. It's not the life for you. You got to figure out what life you want. I really like to give examples to help illustrate things that we talk about. So another life coach, I'm going to tell you about something that he ran into. He wrote about a time when he met with a client who was really a super successful lawyer. He was on the brink of becoming a partner in the firm. He was working close to 80 hours a week. And he was finally, after years where he always wanted to be in his career. Like, this is what he visualized since he was in his 20s. And he was finally, like, gonna get partner. And he was working with this life coach to help him figure out why he felt unfulfilled, even though he was finally at the place he had been imagining for years. And the very first session they had together, he listed family as one of his core values. And that was just something that he always wanted to come first in his life and the thing that brought him the most joy when he was asked to kind of reflect on his days. And again, in the first session together, the client had this aha moment where he realized, I know why I'm not happy. It's because I don't want to be a partner in the firm. I don't want to work 80 hours a week. And if I make partner, I'll be doing over 80 hours. And I just want more time with my family. And that realization was empowering because, he finally saw his life clearly. But that's scary, right? When you see your life clearly and you step off of autopilot. Autopilot's kind of comfy, like, oh, I don't know. Who cares what's coming next? I'm just going through the motion. But when you take the time to step off and see things and you have these realizations, ooh, that's scary. He had to admit the goal he was totally committed to for several years was actually not what he wanted at all. So scary, but also empowering, right? And that kind of brings me to my next idea of sometimes we find ourselves competing with what society expects of us, right? And how we really want to appear successful and in a certain way to others. And it can really, really be hard to admit that what we want is maybe less than what we thought we wanted. We should actually lower the bar. I don't know, maybe I don't want to do those things. So what's more scary, admitting your life is going in a direction you don't want and doing something about it, or ignoring it? Which one sounds more scary to you, right? They're both pretty scary. Admittedly, something has to happen. And if nothing happens, what happens? You get to the end of your life wondering, what the heck did I do? I wish I had the nerve to change course back in the day. Now, not all examples are going to be this drastic when we talk about aligning your life with your values. We can and we should take the time to understand why we're doing the things we're doing, and if they feel right to us. That's really at the heart of all this. And it doesn't mean everything we do is going to be happy and great and going to be in line with our values, but we're going to find more inner peace and contentment when the big things in our life give us the room to feel like we are being ourselves. I know I've already said that, but that's so important. You have to feel like you're being yourself, 100%. I recently found a quote. It's in a Forbes article. I want to read you this quote. It really kind of sums it up well for you. Those who do not live by their values too often feel dissatisfied with what they have achieved, as well as their performance along the way. However, following your values ensures that you move ahead with certainty and integrity. Resolve today to be certain of your values and to adhere to them. Man, that's just so good, right? We have these goals, but if you have a goal without values attached to it, you're not being proud of the person you are each day. When you get to your destination, you're going to feel like, I'm still not happy. You're depressed and you're like, man, what's wrong? What's wrong is that you weren't listening to your values. You weren't proud each day of the person you were along the way. Does that make sense? I hope so. So again, last week I told you there are several books out there about people who are near the end of their lives. And when they are asked about their biggest regrets, I'm telling you, they always say, I didn't live the life I always wanted to. They say they didn't listen to their guts. They should have done the things they wanted to do. They should have married the person they wanted to, or made the decision they knew was right for them, not the one their parents or society was telling them to make. They should have listened to their authentic selves and gone that way. So this is why I'm telling you this and why I'm passionate about it. Again, we have this one life. What a disservice to live someone else's life or someone else's goals. So taking the time to figuring out what we value, and if we're doing things that take us a step closer to those values, man, that's worth your time, isn't it? So think back to the lawyer example I just gave, about the lawyer meeting with his life coach. Had he gone on to keep working toward becoming a partner, yeah, sure, maybe he could have found some joy here and there. It doesn't mean his life would be miserable. He would have some accomplishments. But the nagging feeling of being somewhere he knew he didn't want to be, that I really do think that would persist. You've all had that feeling, right? Where you're like, man, this doesn't feel right. You keep going for a little bit, and that knock on your door, your proverbial brain door, gets louder and louder. Like, oh, come on now, this isn't right. If he kept on that path, he wouldn't feel like he was where he wanted to be, because he realized family was more important than spending his life at work. No matter the size of his paycheck. Sure, we can be like, oh man, but the money. Nope, doesn't matter. If you've decided that that's not what you're going for, but you go for it anyways, it doesn't feel good. His focus would be not on what he found to be most meaningful. So when you shift your focus to be on things that are just, again, are not the most meaningful to you, your focus is on things that are distractions. So you're not really living your best life. Now, again, this doesn't mean, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to sell my nice house and spend every minute with my family. That's not what he did. Some people do that. You hear about that. They're like, I had this epiphany, this enlightenment, and I sold all my things and I now live on the ocean. That's okay. That works for some people. But I don't want you to mistake life coaching with these willy-nilly rash decisions to shake your life upside down. It's more about these nuggets of information. They're going to help you navigate your life in a way that is best for you. If best for you does mean selling everything and living on the ocean, great. That's wonderful. But this guy, he didn't quit his job. He didn't sell his house. He wasn't like, I got to spend every minute with my children. He wasn't frantically obsessed like that. It just meant he had to do the work to realize, I got to make peace with the fact that I'm not going to have the title that I've been dreaming of. I got to let that go. It meant he had to process that his career would not be what he imagined it to be. All those years continuing to see, okay, I'm going to make partner. Nope. He would have to be okay with plateauing not getting those raises, not getting the title change. His career might plateau for the sake of putting his other values first. Family, inner peace, those things had to come first for him. And again, our values kind of change, right? They evolve. So sometimes if we feel stuck, it might be because our values have changed and we haven't adjusted our actions to accommodate. So it's worth taking the time to check in and be like, do I really still want that? I feel like I should still want that because it's what I said I always wanted, but maybe I don't. And again, that's scary to admit, oops, maybe I was wrong. I don't think it's wrong. I think it's just growing and understanding. I was talking to my mom recently, and her dad, this made me think of it. He was a, is it called a lineman? When you work in a factory, you work at a line. And his boss tried to promote him year after year to a foreman. But my grandpa always said, no, I don't want that responsibility. No, thanks. I am not interested. And I really think, like, again, he didn't really have the words to be back then to be like, well, it's not aligning with my values. I think in his head, I mean, he's not around for me to ask him this, but I believe he thought like, man, I love my garden. I love coming home, listening to my opera records. What a cool dude. He's a factory worker who loved to listen to opera. I love my gardening, love opera, I love my kids, I love baking cakes. He loved those things, and if he were to accept the raise of being a foreman, that title change, that would encroach on his values. It's like, think of your values as like your babies. You got to protect them. Like, no, man, nope, getting too close to my babies. Back it up. Keep your money. That's not what drives this bus. I'm not going to put money first. And again, you could put money first. I don't care. But in this example, it's just about saying, if I go after the thing I don't care about, these other things are going to the light will dim on them. And that's not going to happen. I thought that was a really cool example when she told me that. So to come to these realizations, it means, again, we got to step back from our lives. In the first episode, I said it's like stepping off the adulting conveyor belt, and you're looking at your life objectively. We get on this autopilot mode and we forget to check in with ourselves. But by knowing our values and then comparing that list of values to what we're actually doing, what we're devoting time, attention, and money to, we can go from feeling stuck to kind of switching to feeling empowered. Because we've cracked the code, right? Mystery solved. The answers are right there, but it takes work and time to discover them. Sorry, no life hacks. You got to sit in silence and figure this stuff out time and time again. And every single action is not going to be aligned with all of our list of values, right? We said that. I always think of values as like real estate. They always say you can't get everything on your wish list, right? When you go to look for a house, you can't get everything, but you have to prioritize what are your deal breakers, what are your must-haves. We do that in real estate, and we have to do the same thing with our values. What are the things that, man, we just cannot live without? And when you have this list of values, you can keep referring back to it. When you feel off or your gut is telling you something is wrong, you don't have to be confused by it. Get out your list. You don't have to feel frustrated. You can pull out that list and start the work of facing it and understanding it. And again, that list might change. The more you pay attention, the more you change, the more you have different goals. Don't worry about that. This isn't meant to put you 2 feet firmly on concrete. These are your values. You will never move. That's not it. It's just about paying attention. So again, I want to give you an example from different areas of life so you can see how being aware of whether your actions line up with your values can help you take control of your life and allow you to not be someone who's just along for the ride. We've all been there, just along for the ride. We already discussed an example of how this might play out at work, right? So if you currently have a job where you feel off or stuck, think about what's important to you. What do you value? And is your job allowing you to bring your values to life? Or is it actively pushing down the value and making you be someone you're not? Again, that's a kiss of death, man. If you're someone you're not at work, we can pretend for a while, but that's really going to have this bad domino effect in other parts of your life and really make you not as happy as you could be. And again, that's not to say we all need to have our dream job and yay, the perfect job will make us happy. That's not what I'm saying. It means whatever job we're doing, from like housekeeping to brain surgery, we can do it with more joy if we feel like we can bring our values to the job. An example of this is, I don't know why, I just love it. I almost get teary-eyed when I go through a drive-through. Because most drive-through workers, you can tell they don't like their job, they don't want to be there. But when I find a drive-through worker who's like lit up, like joy is just coming out from their soul. You can just see it on their face. They're happy. They love, you can tell they love connecting with people and they're super happy. I love that. That's a good example of, yeah, I'm not at my dream job, but I'm going to bring my values to work, because what's more important than my job is who I am and how I show up to work. It's not just a good work ethic. It's just saying life is great and I'm going to have fun today. I love that. So when I find a cashier, a drive-through person, someone who we might think like, oh, that's a pretty difficult job to deal with people all day, when they're full of joy, I'm like, yes, you're amazing and you're going to get promoted. How could you not get promoted because you're just tackling life with such joy? Another example might be, say you have a job in an office, but you really love nature. Does this mean you got to quit your job and go be a park ranger? No. Again, you can. It depends on how far that pendulum is swinging inside of you. You might really want a drastic change. Go quit your job and be a park ranger. But also think about small ways every day that you can infuse a little nature into your life. You could set a timer on your watch, your clock, your phone. I'm 90 years old. Your phone. Put it on your phone. Or you could be like me. I used to put Post-it notes on my phone. So dorky. But you could put a little timer in your phone each day. At 12 o'clock, I'm going to go outside and take a walk. That walk every day might be just what you needed to reinvigorate yourself, refresh your brain, and be like, all right, I got some nature in my life. My job is not revolving around nature, but it might help. Those small changes might be exactly what you need. And that's what you figure out in life coaching. Once you unpack all this stuff, you're like, okay, now what? I've got all these answers about who I am, but what do I do with it? That's for you to decide. So those are examples. That's an example from work. Let's talk about relationships now, how our values might be in line or not aligned with others. We argue, right? We butt heads with others. It's normal, but when things really get off course, it's often because what we value is not shared by the other person. Or you've forgotten what you value, or you feel what you value is being ignored. So many times you hear people say, oh man, I lost myself in that relationship, right? And that means they no longer paid attention to what they valued for whatever reason. They just got depressed. They felt they weren't being heard or seen, and like, I don't know what I value anymore. I don't even know who I am. We tend to ignore this when we're dating. We just think, oh, wow, I love this person. We talk about like, oh, what's your 5-year plan? Where do you see yourself? But we don't ask them like, not just where do you see yourself, but how do you see yourself getting there? Like, what's important to you? That's super important. And I'm not here because I'm perfect. Again, man, I've had tons of failed relationships because I didn't do that work. I was like, oh, we both have fun. Yay, that's it. Sure, fun is one of my values, but there's other values that were really not aligned with people I have been with. And man, if that's one lesson we could teach our college-age kids is like, just sit down and treat it like an interview. Ask the hard questions of what are your values? What type of person are you? So important. And the way we spend our free time, that's another category. So relationships, your job, and your free time. How you spend your free time is really an important thing to think about in relation to our values. Our instinct is often to relax and numb ourselves to stress, but our leisure time can really start to snowball and squash our values. So an example of this might be, say 2 of your values might be health and your family, but you spend so much time tending to your family that you feel too tired to tend to your health. Now, this is a very, very common complaint. So your hobbies and your leisure time push your health out of the way. And instead, you turn to scrolling or relaxing so much that you don't have time to devote to health, right? But finding this balance between your values is super important. And a lot of stay-at-home moms, they really struggle with this. I've coached a few of them where they say like, man, I've been a stay-at-home mom for so long, I don't even know who I am. Where did I go? They just kind of felt like they've evaporated over the years. It doesn't mean they're miserable. It means their value was so hyper-focused on family that they've forgotten their entire list. Anything that's related to them being a human being outside of being a mother, they've forgotten about. And again, that's not right or wrong. It's just something that it's wonderful to see women or dads, stay-at-home dads, when they realize this, it's lovely to be like, aha, something's missing. Oh, okay, I found it. And once they found it, oh man, it's so emotional. I love it when people discover what they've been missing and how they're going to get it and who they are. Like, oh, I'm not just a mom. I love being a mom, but I also love this, this, and this. And I can do both. It's so empowering. So that's leisure time. Habits and rituals, that's another category. They should also be a reflection of our values. And again, you guys, this is not every single day. Your habits, your values must be illuminated in your habits. Nope. You can scroll some Netflix. That doesn't matter. It's okay. I'm talking about over and over again. What are the patterns? If your habits or your rituals are not in line with your values, it's not surprising that we would feel less than thrilled with life, right? That's when we get into this rut, this slippery slope of like, autopilot. I'm not figuring out what I want. So say someone values love and he says he really wants to find someone to share his life with. But when he steps back and looks at how he's spending his time, his energy, and his money, he might see that hardly anything is really geared toward love and finding love. Maybe he's going home after work every night to watch TV because really, let's be honest, that's easier, right, than getting out there. Turning on the TV and relaxing is just something we tend to fall into to relax and recover from stress. But if you're saying you want to find love, your actions, your habits, your rituals have to reflect that a little bit, or else you're going to get what you're putting out there. If you're watching TV, you're not going to find someone. So what about your thoughts? We don't think about thoughts as being actions, but actions, yeah, they should be aligned with our values, but our thoughts are also a big part of who we are because thoughts are the thing that dictate our actions. That's so important to remember. What you think is going to influence how you act and what you believe and what you do. If we value adventure, for example, but we keep thinking, I'm too old for adventure, you start to give up on that idea of adventure. So then you start to change who you are because you believe your thoughts. You start to doubt yourself, right? You don't listen to the voice that tells you, I still love adventure. I still want it. You just get intimidated, like, I guess I don't need that anymore. You do. If you feel it, you need it. Your gut, your soul, your spirit is telling you what you need. So listen. A really great byproduct of assessing if your life is aligned with your values is you get better with time management. I feel like we all could use a little bit better time management skills, right? Your days become things you don't take for granted when you pay more attention. Each day becomes more meaningful when you start to notice how you're spending your time and what feels off. So by taking the time each day, you're really going to dig in deeper and notice things, and by default, manage your time better because you're going to see where your time is going. So let's do that right now, okay? Think about today. What did you do today? Did you feel like you could be yourself today, or were there times when you kind of had to fake it? And again, we're going to have to be flexible in life. Sometimes we have to be like, okay, I gotta be this person to play nice with this other person. That's okay. Just take note of it. Were the things that are important to you part of your day today? What was stressful or what made you feel off today? How about this past week? When did you feel joy and like you were in the zone of feeling like life is meaningful and you were showing up as yourself? Think about those things. This is life-changing, but we just don't take a step back often enough to take stock of our lives to do this, right? We just don't turn off the TV and say, what are my values? Did I bring those values to the table today, or did I just phone it in? We just don't do that because we feel stupid, right? Please feel stupid. I love it. It's just such good work. I'm the biggest dork in the world, so just know that you're not as dorky as I am. You can do this. If you do step off this conveyor belt and think about your life, you're going to feel more like you're not letting life whip past you, right? It's not going to whip past you anymore, but you will become the driver because you're being intentional. You're noticing things. You are slowing down and looking at each day objectively to see if it were your last day, would you be happy with how you showed up? Think about that today. If today was your last day, would you be happy with how you showed up today? It's good stuff. I'm telling you, it's deep and dark, but that's less depressing than dying with regrets, right? You're welcome. I'm here all week. Once you know your values and you see where you feel like your values aren't allowed to come out, this gives you the information you need to make decisions in your life. It doesn't mean everything has to change right now or you're never going to be happy. It's not that drastic. It simply means you now have some really helpful information you can sit with. What you decide to do with that is up to you, but it's way more empowering to see the whole picture than to feel swallowed up by things that don't feel right to you, right? I'm going to say that again. What you decide to do is up to you. It's your discernment, but it's way more empowering to see the whole picture of your life than to sit back and feel swallowed up and stuck by things that don't feel right to you. It's like that backpack analogy I think I said either in the first or second episode. These obstacles, these things that bother us, we just blindly put on the backpack each morning, the backpack full of stuff that weighs us down, but we don't stop often enough to examine what's in the backpack. I like analogies. So this next week, I'd love for you to take a look at your list of values. And your list should be no more than 10 values. Doesn't mean you don't have more than that, but the goal is to prioritize those deal breakers, those must-haves. So look at this list and go through different categories in your life to examine if that part of your life is aligned with your values, okay? So some categories might be at work, at play or leisure, in your relationships, in your habits. Jot down areas where you are feeling off or stuck, or maybe just like we talked about before, like your life is not in color. It's kind of feeling gray, kind of like lukewarm. Where do you feel lukewarm? Is it because of another person who is in conflict with your values, or is it a situation or environment you don't love? Is there a way you can bring more of your values to each of these areas in life? Do you feel like you need to make any big changes? Now, this part is tricky because if you make a huge change without truly knowing who you are and what you want, you can find yourself making the same mistake over and over again. You get in that loop of like, oh, I better make this change because I'm not happy. But there's that saying, I don't know whoever said this, but I read it. It's like, everywhere I go, there I am. That's what we're talking about here. You got to know who you are, because if you make these knee-jerk changes thinking, oh, now I'll be happy. Okay, now I'll be happy. Nope, there you are. So who are you? You have to know your user's manual of your values. What do I want? Where am I going? What am I focusing on? Once you know that, that's tucked away deep inside of you. So no matter where you go, you're taking that with you, and that's wonderful. So each night this week, I encourage you to take the time to look back on your day, every day, and do this exercise. Ask yourself these questions. Did I live out my values today? What can I be proud of today that I did? What would I have done differently today? What do I say is important, but I didn't devote any time to today? Right? We're all guilty of that. Like say, I want to learn Spanish. Well, talking about it is not going to make it happen. You got to take action. So those small questions, I'm telling you, if you ask yourself that question every night for a week, you're going to come up with answers you had no idea were already in there. It's really good, important work. And next week, we're going to talk about how to create goals and habits that are anchored to your values. Man, I love that. It's so important because it sets you up for success by not just being laser focused on a goal, but you're open to enjoying the transformational work that comes with trying to reach that goal. You start to fall in love with the work of becoming someone that you're proud of. Anchoring a goal to your values helps you answer why you want to reach a goal. And when you tie it to your values, you're going to care way more about it in the long term. And that was that kind of like that quote we talked about from Forbes. Your goal becomes not as important as who you are along the way towards reaching that goal. And when you reach a goal, you'll be super happy and content about it, but you're like, oh yeah, okay, I reached my goal, but I've been doing this every day. It's just who I am. It's just second nature when you attach your goal to a value. And we'll explain that more next week. So if life coaching is something you're interested in and you want to see if I'd be someone you want to work with, you can read more about Rebecca Rhine Life Coaching at my website. It's RebeccaRhine.com. It's RebeccaRine.com. I offer potential clients a free consultation, so we just chat casually for a half an hour about what you're thinking about, where you feel stuck, and then you can tell me, do you think this is a good thing for you? Is life coaching something you want to commit to? Because I only want to work with people who are willing to be open-minded and really examine their lives with flexibility and courage and a willingness to change. So if you're ready for that, that's something we can talk about. I'll be back next week with the next step to my 8-part series to help you get unstuck and to stop living on autopilot. Thank you so much for joining me today. I love that you were listening and a part of this. I so appreciate it. Remember to leave your brain's door open this week to see what answers come to you about areas where your life is not aligned with your values. Write about it each night, and after a week, notice the patterns that will appear before your eyes like magic. Please do it. Transform today, do it again tomorrow. Do the work instead of just talking about doing the work. You're awesome. I see you.